Yo, 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 what is going on, AoEM Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder. And today, we are going to be giving you the best ultimate guide on how to be a fantastic and phenomenal alliance leader. And we're really just giving you some fantastic basics and foundations to build from to try and be the best version of you that you can be. And hopefully giving some realistic expectations as well along the way, because being an alliance leader really is no joke. I'll probably just leave it there. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure you throw us up, because it helps out a lot. So number one for me is time commitment. Now this is, the short version is you just need to make sure that you have enough time to actually commit to being an alliance leader, because being an alliance leader is more than just being a player. It's really your primary job function is to make sure that the alliance is successful in all areas. And as an alliance leader, you really should have enough time to where you can dedicate yourself to those areas. And most of the time, you have to think about, even if you're trying to maintain your account, you will play. But then more than, I don't want to say more often than not, but there can be times where you may put in more amount of time per day, really focusing on the management side and really being there for not only your officers, the players, but to handle any issues that may arise and more beyond just playing. And so that's why, for me, it's really about how much time do you actually have available. Because if you only have an hour a day and you want to be an alliance lead, I just don't think that really makes a lot of sense. So just make sure that you have enough time. How much time, is really up to you. But I would say, if you have a couple hours a day, to me, I think that's fair to say at minimum, to where you can put in, because you have to not only think about playing your account, which you can do on and off, but the management side, and we're not saying it has to be straight time that you're putting in, but just the availability throughout a 24-hour period. I think that's fair to say when it comes to, especially if you're trying to build, again, a successful alliance, not just one that you're making to kind of play, and you got farms in there, whatnot, and you don't really care if it dies, but like you really care about the longevity of it. Number two, managing versus playing. As we already alluded to, as an alliance leader, you are really more of a manager. You're not really a player first. And that can be very difficult for a lot of people that I have seen lead alliances to really understand, is that you are there as customer service, you're tech support, you're a psychologist, you're a therapist, you are an events coordinator. You are basically everything in the alliance. And that doesn't mean you have to be the only one to do everything. But what it does mean is that as a manager, you are supervising. You are there to lead the alliance and to have hopefully the best intentions for the direction that it is going to take and the players there that you are responsible for. So even if, once again, you are logging in, doing your minimums, everything you need to do, there may come times where maybe you can't immediately participate in war. Maybe you can't lead the troops on the front line because you have to go and manage. You have to go and take care of things that are important in the alliance. Now, maybe some of your officers can take some of that load off. We'll maybe talk about that later down the road. But understanding that you making sure the alliance is good on all fronts will always come before you being able to play in some areas. So again, just having some realistic expectations there. Number three, your alliance announcement board. This, I think, is pretty important when it comes to how you are going to be perceived by others, whether that's externally outside of your alliance and or even for the people that you have in your alliance. And an example of this is when you click on the alliance, this is one of the first things people are going to see. Now, I am of the opinion that things that should go in this alliance announcement board should be your member positions, so your department positions. An example could be, it could say something like leader. Here's the leader's name. It could say diplomacy. Here's the diplomacy person's name. Here's the migration rep's name. Here's the internal affairs person's name. Here's the events coordinator's names. Here's your data person's name. And then maybe it says who your allies are or who your enemies are. It can talk a little bit about recruitment, write some information, maybe a one-liner or something on what people would need to know to join. I would also have a link there for your Discord, if that's the Alliance Discord or Kingdom Discord, depending on if everyone is synchronized and aligned across the kingdom or not. And then any other kind of neat bits of information that you may consider including. I think those are nice to do because it really covers a wide area of good to know or nice to know bits versus welcome to the goat burn. Respectfully, you guys do you, boo-boo, but I would do more than that, right? I wouldn't just have it be this, to each their own. And again, I don't know if this is an active alliance or not. I'm just simply stating this generally, nothing against this alliance. I don't know anyone there. Next one here is going to be the Alliance Discord. So this is pretty straightforward. I just would say add an Alliance Discord to your alliance so that way people can join, and that's this, right? So when you make an alliance, you will go in here. I just joined this one. It's probably going to be in settings or something that you'll go to. Again, click around, but it basically just add your Alliance Discord or your Kingdom Discord here so that way you can get people to join and really advocate for people to join that, because if you have a high conversion rate for people that are joining the alliance that also join the Discord, or I've even seen some alliances that say, listen, if you're going to be a part of the alliance, you have to join the Discord. It is up to you, right? I do think it's great when you can have everyone in the alliance or up to everyone there in the Discord as well, especially if you are able to get, high engagement numbers on VC or voice when you're in war or you're doing events. But at least being able to try to have up to everyone join the Discord, I think is a nice goal to set, regardless of how you get there. Or I should say, depending on how you choose to get there. Next one here is going to be recruiting for your alliance. Now, for me, this is pretty simple. Just come up with a nice copy-paste message that you can put as a template. And this is an example. Indo seeking, right? Like this is something that you could just click copy. I could paste this myself and repost, right? My thing here is just make sure that you figure out what the max characters are that you can type. And then from there, just format that. And then you can have, you post that every once in a while on the world chat. Usually you would do this, though, when a new kingdom is established, not necessarily when a kingdom has already been up for a while. In addition, you could also post on the official AoEM Discord when your kingdom is new. And an example of this would be if we go to our settings, we go to characters. Let's say I go to create. And let's say Kingdom 97 is the newest one. Well, I would go on the Discord and I would be recruiting and saying, hey, Kingdom 97 is open. If you're just starting out the game and you're looking to join somewhere, we have space, you're more than welcome. Then also posting in world chat, in-game, right? Now, you may not necessarily go on the Discord or post in world chat for, an older kingdom, right? Like I probably wouldn't do that for Kingdom 25, so to speak. In average cases, I'll say. And that's, once again, just because the kingdom has already been established. Okay, next one is going to be placing your center fortress or stronghold, as we call that, which is what this is, right? So when you're placing your stronghold, you're basically, from what my understanding is that you're placing them on these plots here on each of these territory slabs or districts. And so if we zoom out, you can see here, oops, hang on, let's go, there we go. No, I want to see the line. There we go. Whew. Okay, good. So each of these lines is basically a territory district or plot. Or I should say probably district, right? And each of these little plots here, this is where you place flags. Now, they're all in standard areas, so you can't place a flag in some random area over here. You have to place it on the idol, if you will, or the plot, we'll call it. And I'm imagining that's also where you're placing the stronghold. So people are asking, where do you place a stronghold? I think the idea behind this is that some people will place strongholds in a new kingdom that are close to a gate. Maybe because they just want to have, maybe because they want to be building out from the gate. Some people will place them based on the RSS that you're getting from the area. Some people will place strongholds more centralized. So maybe you're looking for an equal distance between objectives. I am usually of the opinion that I like to place center fortresses or strongholds that are centralized between objectives and then just a teeny bit closer to the flag. Or excuse me, to the pass or to the gate to the next zone. So an example of this would be, let me see here if I can zoom in real quick, because it'd be nice if I could see a bunch of these cities and stuff here. So there's a dun-dun there. Those are other things. So, let's say you have one here. I would maybe consider putting something around, maybe where Acropolis is, or maybe War. I actually don't think these are bad positions. But it could be something in between here, right? So it could be in between here where you have a distance to each of the level 8s, and then you're also not too far away from the dock, right? Or from a zone, as an example. And these are things where... Right, and again, you could even argue placing it right around here because you're still kind of an equal distance from the pass over there. So just to kind of give you an idea, that's kind of things that I look out for. Now, again, there's not as many objectives in the AoEM zone as there is in, and I think I'm in zone 2, right, that I'm looking at. So am I even looking at the right thing? Yeah, so that's zone 2. Let me go to zone 1 as an example, because that would probably be a little bit more accurate. Okay, so let me see here. We got capital. Oh no, that's the stronghold. We got the capital, and then, oh god, do I have to zoom in more here? Oh, I do. So, okay, so here we go. Now, and again, I might not necessarily be looking at every single thing, but we have the capital, and then we have, let me see, level 2. Let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more to give you guys an idea. Okay, there we go. Now I can see a level 1. So, man, that sucks. I really wish you could see everything by being zoomed out all the way. That is slightly rough. Anyways, idea here could be something like, I actually think this isn't bad. Right, so like where this one is for Hightower, where you have a couple cities, I think these are pillars, right? Is that right? Or, sorry, monuments. There we go. So this is, again, centralized a little bit. You have some decent objectives over here to the east and the west, and you're not that far away from this dock. So, again, just thinking about how you're going to position yourself is important. And so, again, hopefully that helps out a little bit with, and again, I wish we could just see all the objectives from outside. Maybe that'll be an improvement that they maybe aim for later on. Next one here is going to be flagging and positioning. Now, flagging is set. You don't really have to worry too much about positioning, but what I would recommend doing is if you're aiming to be an alliance lead, maybe creating a character on a map and planning out your flagging path. So this is one of the benefits that you can do once you've placed your stronghold fort, or and then you can go through and count, like how many flags is it to this objective, to this pass, to this dock, etc. Those are things that you can do with flagging, and so I do recommend doing that if you have the time. The next one here would be markers and where to place. So markers are pretty standard. You know, you're going to put a marker for supply depot here, build here, gather here, attack this pass, we will rally at this time. Those are the kinds of markers that you're going to place. However, the one point or one nice to know or tip I'll give you is try not to be so overwhelming with markers. It can, each marker should have a unique point that you're trying to get across, and you shouldn't necessarily be using every single marker, I feel, at all times unless it is absolutely needed. Like I said, you might have a marker for, hey, here's a supply depot here, or a mana pit or an RSS pit to gather from. And then another marker that says gather here, and another one that says, hey, we're going to rally this pass at this time, right? Or maybe you do another marker that says, hey, an event's coming up for all of us to participate in, gather here on this day and this time, right? Those are the kinds of beneficial markers. I wouldn't necessarily have 3 or 4 markers that all say come here, as an example. Maybe a marker on a city, if you're looking, and this is a nice little tip, maybe you put a marker on a player city that says, hey, move over here, because then it will allow more players to come into the territory to TP in. Sometimes those are nice, right? In some kingdom builders, you might say, well, hey, TP to the edge of territory. So things like that can be really beneficial as well. Next one here is going to be the Alliance Tech Path. Now, this is probably going to be a short one for me because I'm not going to go over everything, but I do want to go over at least a couple important techs that I think would really help out alliances, as far as some that you might consider looking at initially. So obviously, I think the most important one is probably going to be increasing some of your alliance member limit. So if you're looking to increase members, right, that's going to be you're going to focus on the Great Alliance techs and politics. That's going to get you some more people. I would argue probably doing this first when you make the alliance is most important. Maybe even getting to GA2. Just depends on when you start hitting some flag limitations. Those are things you'll have to pay attention to. The next one is going to be going to science, which is building specialty, and this goes into the alliance flag building limit. You need to be able to monitor your RSS income, how much it's costing to put a flag down, and then how many flags you're putting down per day. This will give you an idea on when you need to start researching for the next flag limit upgrade and going forward with that. Then the other thing is that plans, I think, eventually will be good because it gives you gathering speed at RSS points. So that'll be nice. Again, maybe not something that you would do as one of your first few, but just something to consider down the road. The next one here is going to be going down to faith. And this is where we get into things like medical advancement and rallies. So I actually think this is pretty important where it says hospital's healing speed, because I imagine that would probably play a huge factor if you end up having any wars or if you just need to heal people from doing any PvE work. And then the rallies is in training speed. I think training speed is vitally important and could be a major thing, especially if you're trying to get a lot of, being able to train a lot of troops at a faster pace earlier rather than later. And then, of course, like anything, being a good alliance lead, just make sure you read through all the alliance techs and go through them and then prioritize which ones you think are most important. But like I said, reading through everything is important because you need to understand what each tech is and then how that affects what your alliance is going to be doing on the map. The next one here is going to be identifying and promoting officers. So for me, when it comes to promoting officers, there's a couple things I like to look for. One, are you active in alliance chat? Are you active on the Discord? Are you giving good pieces of information? Are you being helpful? And are your answers accurate and consistent? How is your tone when you're answering people? Are you getting easily flustered? Are you giving people short answers that aren't descriptive enough? That might be an indication that you're not willing to either go the extra distance or you don't want to give someone a full answer. You're okay with just giving them a short version. I don't know if that's something I would necessarily look for. You have to be able to identify how you are going to consider promoting someone to an officer and or offering someone an officer position. And then the other tip I'll give you, which I think is a major one, is make it very clear to people that you are trying them out as much as they are trying you out. It's not an automatic guarantee that they're just going to stay there forever. And that's one of the biggest challenges I see in a lot of alliances is that people will get promoted, but there's no expectations that are set on either side, right? There's not really like this great thorough communication. And so I would just say that's my biggest thing is when you're going to promote someone to say, hey, we would love to try you out as an officer to see if you're going to be a good fit and to see if we will be a good fit for you. So it's both ways. That way, expectations and precedent is set early, and you don't have to worry as much about if it doesn't work out, and then you just saying, hey, it would be better for us to put you back in a member role. I just don't think it's working out right now based on this, this, and this, but maybe we'd consider you again in the future. It just makes having that conversation a little bit easier. The next one here is going to be for tech and power auditing. And this is more of what your data person is probably going to do. So there's not like a lot, unfortunately, of data in the game when it comes to in the alliance. And so I'll give you an example of this. If we go in the alliance, Josh, I can't even just click on the thing that says alliance. But if we go here and I go to allies, you can see it tells you some data. It says contributions, make alliance contributions by participating in building or maintaining alliance buildings, donating alliance tech, assisting allies, and defending or expanding alliance land. But one of the things it doesn't tell you is what's the total amount of donations, what's the total amount of assists, what's the total amount of building time that someone like it doesn't give you these individual statistical breakdowns that a number of other kingdom builders do provide you. And so I think that's a major opportunity here for them to do, but you can at least do two things here. One, I do love that they have this activity tracker, so it tells you how long it's been in a very easy to understand way, when the last time someone was online or if they currently are online. And even if you're a member, you can see how many people are online out of the total. I think that's great. I think more games need to include that. On top of which, you can track power growth. So you can grab everyone's power at least, and you can track that on a week-to-week basis every couple days, depending on what your data peeps want to do. If you're tracking activity, general power growth, and also for in-game kind of hour or day activity in addition. Sure, you can track contributions, but part of me just feels like if you're going to have a total summary contribution stat, you need to also have the individual breakdown stats for those so people can see what those look like. Because again, it's nice to be able to break those down and not just have an only holistic view of everything overall. With that in mind, next one we're going to end up going to, and you can just do this on like a spreadsheet, right? And again, I probably don't necessarily need to like show you any examples, but just kind of going into that simply for how you would build that out. Those are some things that you would probably track and then you can kind of gauge appropriately. Next one is sending alliance mails. And I don't think I have any alliance mails that were sent on this, but I'll show you an Imperial decree because I imagine the formatting is probably pretty similar. Sending alliance mails, I think, is very important. And what kind of mail should you be sending? Well, my view is you should be sending educational mails. You should be doing things that are going to help people progress and level their account up. You should be educating people. You should be sending mails for events that are happening for that week. So you can give a nice summarized version or a TLDR on like, hey, here's the 5 events that are happening this week. These are the days they're occurring on. And here's a short sentence or message on each of them for how you can maximize, for how you can get the most out of them. Here's mails on commander pairings or hero pairings. Here's a mail on how to conduct war, on how to do PvP. Mails for building priority order. Maybe Academy or I think it's, console, whatever the technology one is. Building is that I'm just escaping my name on, hey, here's the priority order for what you would focus on, and this is why you're going to focus on this. Doing those kinds of things, or tips on gathering. These are things that you want to do because a rising tide lifts all boats. Don't just send a one and done mail, right? Save mails into a Google Doc or something that you can go back to at any point. And I'll give you a pro tip here. If I was leading an alliance, I would research every single event that's in the game, and then I would write tips and tricks for each of those events. And then all I have to do when those events come around is I just plug them into a mail and I say, okay, here's 6 new events that are happening this week. Okay, let me go to my Google Doc or to my folder and I'll just pull each of them, copy, paste into the in-game mail, and then bam. It's reducing the workload and the overall amount of steps you have to do as a lead and really leaning into that management side. The next one is creating group chats. Now, I don't know if you can create group chats. I didn't actually ask anyone on this, but if I go to here, I'd have to look. I don't know if I have, I can't. So you can't create a group. I don't know if there's a limit here on how many you can do for a group. But the thing I like about group chats is that you can do them for your alliance. So let's say you want to do an alliance group chat that just posts war coordinates, or an alliance group chat that just does war updates, or a group chat that is just for a specific event that's happening there. Group chats could be a way to not muddy alliance chat. And you can probably use it for other things too as well if your head's already kind of spinning based on a couple things that I've said. But group chats can be beneficial. Now, again, I don't know if you can have it for everyone in the alliance, or maybe there's a limit of 10 or 15 or 20 people. If that's the case, maybe you end up using group chats for diplomacy conversations. Maybe you just have group chats for just leaders of all the alliances in the kingdom, maybe leaders and officers. Again, you can really kind of be creative with how you use them, but there can definitely be good benefit. Maybe you do a group chat just for the top 20 players in the kingdom. Again, however you might approach it. Next one is conducting diplomacy. We're almost done. Diplomacy to me is obviously incredibly important, just as a number of other points are. But the thing about diplomacy is that as an alliance leader, whether you're going to take the lead on that or you're going to have a diplo rep, you should be privy to that. And you should be willing and wanting to hopefully take the lead on conducting diplomacy, at least with being able to have a solid foundation on how to approach. But most importantly, you need to figure out first and foremost how your alliance is going to behave and act in the kingdom, because that will then lead into how you go about conducting diplomacy. And I'll just give you two polar opposites. Number one, let's say you just want to go balls to the wall crazy and you want to just ravage and wreak havoc on everyone. And you don't really care about who's allied and who's union with who. You just want a PvP and that's it. Okay. Well, the way you would conduct diplomacy is, hey, sure, you could have the aggressive approach, which is we're just not going to do it at all. I get it. But you could also do an approach where it's hey, look, we're just going to go, we're not going to attack you unless, you attack us, or you're in this zone, as an example. But if you could just, if you'd be so kind just to move your territory or to remove this flag or not build in this direction, that would be great. That's a little bit more of a nicer way of doing it. If you're just not going kind of full Tarzan blown aggression, then, that might help a little bit. But if you don't care, then yeah, you can make the argument, just don't even care about diplomacy, or just tell people, hey, we're just going to fight all the way up until the final zone, or we're just going to wreak havoc on the entire kingdom. Then let's say you're going the opposite direction, where you do want to work with alliances and you don't want there to kind of be unnecessary PvP. Well, then it really comes down to, okay, how do you view your alliance? Do you want to be the number one alliance in the game? Do you not care about, or in the kingdom, or do you not care about that? Do you want to have all the objectives, or do you want to share objectives? How many do you want? Are you willing to split territory up in each zone? How are you going to work on any kind of city or objective rewards, whether that's first capture or when the end of a monument chapter finishes? These are things you have to figure out, because it will affect how you go about conducting diplomacy for what you offer, for what's offered to you, and what you consider agreeing to. The diplomacy game is vastly important, and there's a lot that really goes into it, and we'll talk about some of those things too as well in a bit. as far as things that affect it. Next one is designating R1 and R3 roles for your alliance. So for this one, for me, it really is dependent on how you want to, again, approach it. But what I will say is that I have seen, I'll give you just a couple examples. One way I've seen this done is where you end up having alliances, and we'll just show you, I can show you each, right? So this is R1, R2, R3, R4. R1 through R3 is really what we'll focus on here. Now, I've seen some alliances where they say you need to join the Discord if you want to be even in the alliance as an R1. I've seen others where they say, look, you can start out as R1. That's just for new players and people that haven't been vetted yet or haven't been here long enough. I've also seen people say if you want to get promoted to R2, you have to at least join the Discord and be active. Other people will just say you just need to be active, maybe be here for a week, and then we'll promote you to R2. And R2 is kind of where you end up having the majority of people stay. This is where you know this is your active group, even if they're not your most active or most contributing, you know that they're not dead weight. That's the point. And then people that get to R3 are usually the people that are very active. They have a lot of time that they can spend. Maybe there's some of your war leaders. Those are some things that you can do to kind of organize your R1 through R3. But like I said, it's really up to you. Hopefully I just gave you a couple ideas. Next one is creating an alliance process for situations. This I think is very important because players in the alliance need to know how to conduct themselves, or better yet, what your recommendations are and standards and expectations for the alliance. So again, do you not care if people are just yapping and talking a bunch of crap in world chat? If they're, saying insulting things, if they're being aggressive, if they're using derogatory language, if they're just going around and attacking people, you need to have processes and standards and rules set up for your alliance, I would argue, before you start the alliance. So that way you're not making these things all up as you go or at the very last minute, because these are things that will also affect how your alliance may be perceived by others. And then if people will decide to stay in your alliance or not, because there will be some players that just don't want to put up with any shenanigans. And then other people will lean into the shenanigans. So like I said, you really have to kind of define what path you want your alliance to go down, and the earlier the better. Next one here is going to be buffs. So you do get buffs that you can assign to players or titles, if you will, after you capture, I think it's certain cities or capitals. So those are things that you can distribute and give out. I don't think there's any buffs that the alliance leader can give out to officers, from what some people have told me, even though that would be cool if they eventually added it in. It's not like a deal breaker or anything, but that's something that you can look forward to. And then how you go about distributing those titles or buffs is something that you will have to figure out for if you want to do it based on contribution. Do you want to do it based on just who's online at that time? Would you use that as only giving it out to officers? Again, things just to consider. But again, you'll probably end up getting a better idea for that as time goes on. Last two here is going to be good characteristics for leaders. Is, for me, I think one of the most important things to be a good and successful leader is you need to have good soft skills. You basically need to know how to talk to people, and how to talk to people that are different from you, have different viewpoints from you, may not understand things the same way. You need to be a chameleon. You need to be adaptable to having conversations in a number of different situations and scenarios. And sometimes that comes with some age and some maturity and also some experience. But at the same time, if you don't really have a lot of experience, I would often say kind of taking more of this Switzerland neutral approach can always be better in the long run, rather than kind of putting everything out there. It is good to be resolute in, at least initially, how you want to view and how you want to do certain things, but also taking time to research those before you get to that point of saying, hey, this is how I want to run stuff. You really have to believe in it, because if you believe in what you're saying and what you're putting out there for how you want your alliance to run, you will not only be more confident in that, but that confidence will instill a level of loyalty, a level of belief and faith within your membership. And so soft skills to me is incredibly important, because it really just comes down to the way that we talk to people. And I think that if you are really good at soft skills and you really work on developing that, along with just being humble, you will probably get a lot farther than you may think. But it also depends on, once again, the kind of alliance and the kind of kingdom that you view your alliance building into, and then also supporting or not supporting for how your alliance wants to interact with the kingdom. So with that in mind, I hope that this video helps. Like I said, there was a number of specifics we went into, a number of broad things and universal things we went into, because I'm sure a number of you are just already familiar with these. And if you're new to the game, I'm sure you will easily get familiar with them as well. And I'd love to know what you guys think. right? Again, did you enjoy the video? Were there some things we talked about that you learned, you took away from, some things maybe you knew you didn't know, maybe you just enjoyed the way that I presented and explained it, and then anything else that maybe we missed or just didn't cover, and you're someone who's had a number of these things affect you, whether that be in a positive or negative way as an alliance leader, and you want to pass on some wisdom, let us know in the comments down below. That's going to do it for me. As always, until next time, we'll catch you later.